Trigger warning. The following content may include sexual content, excessive or gratuitous violence content, Build-A-Bear Workshop content, death and or dying content, naked Mitch McConnell, and doom scrolling. If you are offended by the aforementioned content, please stop listening and go ahead and give a 5-star review anyway. If you are not offended, you are probably a terrible person and have discovered your people. Welcome, new listener.
You're now tuning in, so get ready for your mindless and sometimes mindful hosts, Josh, Jenn, and their very special guest for the morning. Sit back and enjoy the show.
Welcome to the Mindless Morning Show.
Welcome and good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Mindless Morning Show. It's me, Josh. I'm here with Jenn. And we also have the most incredible music producing legend here with us, and also the CEO of Allied Artists, Kim Richards. How you doing today, man?
I'm great. How are you guys? Let's pick it up. This is morning. Everybody wake up.
Right. Oh, I know.
What are we doing, man?
And here we are, just sitting here at like 9 o'clock at night and recording this. And
yeah, but you're supposed to pretend it's like 7 a.m.
Yeah. Oh, God, I'm tired. But
I guess I got to start drinking like whiskey.
You drink at 7 a.m.?
Why not?
Dude, he can.
It's 5 o'clock somewhere.
That's true.
So, Kim, where are you from, man?
I'm right here in Los Angeles.
Oh, born and raised?
Wow. Born and raised in L.A.
Wow.
So I grew up on Smog.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, how does that work for you?
Up and down the highway do you live from your prior residence?
Well, I think it was always getting, you see, the smog is better now. So it's been a step forward each day.
It's a good way to look at it. I mean, it is what it is. So, like, what's life living in LA for an entire lifetime?
Well, there's never for want of excitement. There's always something going on, whether it's a car chase, or something. There's something of a matter of excitement somewhere.
I mean, you get to hang out with all the coolest of LA. So, I mean, you have the exclusive in. Like, you can just walk up to a club and be like, you already know who I am.
Well, I've been lucky in the sense that I've been in the music business all along. And I started working for RSO Records when I was very young. And so I had access to all the clubs, just to walk in. They knew me as I had to walk in pass at every step. So that was very cool.
Right. And you mentioned that you started young. So they actually went way out of their way and made a certain agreement for you to work because of your age, being the youngest?
Well, yes and no. Let me explain that. The first place I worked was at a place called the Greek Theater. If anybody's familiar with Los Angeles, there's a place called Vermont Canyon. It's in Griffith Park, but it's right at the entrance to Griffith Park. And it's a very famous theater. I was there when we shot Hot August Night, recorded Neil Diamond's album there. And Carole King did a live album there. We did a bunch. So it's a very famous place. At that time, it only sat probably 2,500, 3,000. I think it has probably 4,000 now, because they've added these wings that come in from the side. It looks like some Batman contraption.
Nice.
But I grew up right above the Greek Theater, and I used to sit on this little white wall, and look down, and I could hear Nat King Cole, Judy Garland, Keely Smith singing. And there was something about the music that just caught my attention. And when I became 13, I traveled on down the hill and walked up to somebody at the Greek Theater and asked them if I could work there. They looked at me sort of odd. I said, a 13-year-old. And they said, well, what do you want to do? And I said, I don't know. What can I do? They said, you could be an usher maybe. And I said, okay. That'll work. So I went in as an usher, but I was most interested in sound. So I used the fact that I was there to hang out with the sound guys. And eventually the sound guys asked for me to be part of their crew, stay on as an usher, but to be part of their crew. And they started teaching me how to mix. And to answer your first question, there was a union that was involved, the IATSE. And one day when one of the guys was sick, they sent somebody in to fill in for him, and he beefed me because he said that I was taking a union man's job. And so they were going to, basically, they were being told by the union to get rid of me. And the union members, this is something that I'll never forget. The union members liked me enough that they all signed a petition saying that if they forced them to get rid of me, that they would all leave the union and take the shop non-union.
Wow.
Wow.
So IATSC not only backed off, but they allowed me to become a Y14 union a music loader in essence, in order to be in the union. So I was by the time that happened, I was, I think, 15, and I'd been there 2 years, and I to this day hold the record as the youngest member of the IATSE. I've since become a Y1 sound mixer.
That's amazing. I have a 12-year-old, and I cannot ever imagine her taking even like the smallest step to say, I want to work right now. She's like,
I feel like that's
much less something
nowadays.
that's like not amazing, you know?
But what's her passion? That's the key. Whatever her passion is, she's going to be aggressive on it.
See, the thing is, though, with kids now, I feel like it's a little different only because they have so much influence around them media-wise. And so her passion changes from, month
Day to day.
month, basically, yeah. So I'm going to wait and see what her passion actually stays, Drawing, she likes to read a lot, so we'll see.
It's very lucky of you that you were, awesome of you in general, that you were able to know exactly like that's what you wanted to do, and basically you were born a certified badass to be 13, just walk up and run shit.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't quite that simple. I did have a lot of things I was interested in. For instance, two-way radios. I became a ham radio operator as a young age. I loved two-way radios, anything electronics, but I've always had that passion for music. And when I used to sit on that wall over the Greek Theater, I would sit there and I would hear the sounds emanating through the Vermont Canyon, and the reverb just made it sound incredible. It was kind of like the Pied Piper in a sense. As soon as I became old enough I started listening when I was about 6 years old. I didn't venture down the hill until I was old enough at 13. And but it was like the Pied Piper. I absolutely needed to get down there to see what was going on down there and become a part of it.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I can't say I ever had any kind of moment like that in my life.
Well, I'll tell you what was funny is my mother at the time was a big fan of Tom Jones and Engelbert Humperdink. And I was working at the Greek Theater when they both came through, and I was the only one that could get them tickets. Get her and her friends tickets.
Wow.
You're the hookup.
Yeah, I was the hookup.
You're like, who's grounded now, Mom?
Yeah. I got her good seats too.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, the sound guys had most people didn't know this, and I don't think they're still doing it. But in the front section, you don't really want to be. The orchestra pits, by the way, are the worst seats. You want to be in the first section. What they did is they would put these fold-up chairs in the section, and they actually sold those seats. So the crews would add another row of chairs that nobody even knew were there. Nobody counted them, and basically would bring somebody in the gate with one of our gate passes and set them in one of those seats, and nobody knew the difference.
Nice.
Probably couldn't do that today.
So,
that's security.
do you have any siblings, or were you an only kid?
I have one sister.
Okay, so you're definitely the favorite child amongst the two.
No, she's awesome too.
But we're 6 years apart, and so I was she was very young when I started doing things like at the Greek Theater, and it didn't take long, because you got to remember that I was off. I was off mixing for other bands by the time I was 16.
Wow.
Like touring and stuff?
Well, I did that too. I toured. Well, I toured with the Bay City Rollers when I was about 16.
Wow.
In through Australia. That's where I met Andy Gibb.
Did your parents go with you?
No, I went by myself.
Oh my God.
So nowadays, I don't think they'd let you because of your age. I think you have to be because of 9/11 and everything. But back then, if you were old enough to know your name and show them a passport, they didn't care how old you were.
Oh, wow.
So, and I was with adults. There were adults there.
What is touring as a 16-year-old like? Were you subjected to the crazy party life that we know tours to be?
You know what? Now that I think about it, I must have been 18 because I might have been, maybe I was 17 or so, because Andy is 18 months younger than me, and I believe he was 17. So I don't know when it was, but it was something about that age.
Wow. Still, that's extremely young.
Yeah.
Well, I had been mixing at the Greek Theater, and what had happened is because I was an usher and I was allowed in there, by my second year there, the senior, the mixers that worked for the Greek Theater, the engineers, they would let me mix for opening acts. They would stand behind me at first, and then the next thing you knew, they were going out and getting a bite to eat while I was mixing, and come back 15, 20 minutes later, and they just let me mix most things that I wanted to mix. Well, there was an act there that I really just fell in love with. I just thought they were fantastic. And so I mixed them. And at the end in those days, acts were at the Greek Theater for an entire week. They did the whole week. Wow. And at the end of the week, the act came up to me and said, looked puzzled and said, "They tell us that you mixed us." I said, "Well, yeah." And he said, and nobody knew this act at the time. And so I said, "Yeah." And they said, "Well, we're getting a lot of compliments on the mix. What are you doing during the school year?" I said, "Well, I go to school." And so they said, "Well, would you like to come mix for us at a club that we're going to be playing in Glendale called the Sopwith Camel?" I said, "Yeah, sure." On the weekends, it was actually Fridays and Saturdays, and so I went and I mixed for them, and well, they ended up having a big hit, and the name of the band was Steely Dan. And they had a huge hit, and they left. And they said, "Hey, look, we're not going to be playing there. We're not going to be the house band anymore at the Stop with Camel." They said, "But we can turn you on to a tour going through Australia." And I said, "Yes, I'd love to do it." And they said, "We haven't even told you who it is." And I don't care. I want to go to Australia.
Oh yeah.
So that's how I got to Australia, where I met Andy Gibb.
Wow.
Very nice.
And so I kind of want to just take a little step back here and get a little educated as to what exactly is entailed in mixing. Like, what is your sole responsibilities and what is it you're actually doing?
Thank you.
Well, you're talking about live or in the studio?
Break it down.
Live, actually.
Yeah.
I'm more intrigued how you do that live.
Live is to take from the stage, you take all of the sends, and back then we generally had about only 24 sends from the stage. Okay. Nowadays you can literally have hundreds.
Right.
And everything is mic'd or is going through a direct box of some sort, and you're then listening to the sound live, and you're getting the level of everything so that the drums are the right level, the vocals are the right level, guitars are the right level. But then when you get a little more complex, because at certain moments, if a guitarist is soloing, for instance, you may want to ride that guitar a little bit so the audience hears the guitar a little bit more prevalent. But then when the vocal comes back, you may want to duck it a little bit and come back up on the vocal.
Okay.
And so if you got 10 fingers, they should all be doing something at all times.
Wow. Yeah. So you're doing like the slide, like the little slide buttons, the knobs, and all that.
Yes.
That's your DJ booth.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Somewhat. It's in essence. And there were back then, I hate to tell you, based on how old I am, back then, not all the boards were what you call faders. They were actually knobs.
Oh, okay.
Oh, so it's all knobs?
No, faders were coming in, but that was just like, well, see, you guys, neither of you probably remember when we had dial phones.
Oh, yeah, we do.
I remember the rotary phones, yeah.
Yeah, rotary phones. You actually were alive during the rotary phone era?
Wait, is
No,
rotary
but I've seen one. my grandma had one.
Smithsonian.
We had the one that had the long cord that you could walk through the entire house with, like
Those are the best.
little
Right.
dial up. Or what is that?
That
called?
was the old wireless.
Yeah, basically.
It wasn't wireless.
You just wrap yourself around the, like living room area.
Well, you'd get a phone from the phone company and immediately go out and buy a cord that was 50 feet or something so you could take it anywhere you needed to go.
Yes. I can't imagine having that now, though. I have like 4 kids, and I'm like, how did they?
Somebody's chewing on the wire.
The phone would never be on the hook, like it would always be pulled down.
That's true. Yeah, to corral all that length of wire at some point, it's going to get a
You have
little
to like
crazy.
hang it up.
So that's really cool. Like, what kind of things did like the sound engineers that you worked with at the Greek, how did they get into teaching you? Like, how did that relationship between you guys really blossom?
Well, there's usually a Y1 mixer that is there. It has to be there by rules, by the union rules. And so if an act, the headlining act will usually bring their own mixer in. And he or she, back then it was mostly he. Yeah. And when you had a female sound mixer, they used to get a lot of crap back then. And so as I got a little bit, I moved up the ranks a little bit. I used to bring in all the females I could find. We had an excellent one that was at the Troubadour. I'm trying to remember her name. I think it was Martha. And I worked her everywhere I could. But anyway, getting back to that, so they would bring in their own sound engineer, and you had to have a Y1 there, basically to keep the union afloat. And so there had to be a Y1. Well, the headlining act I can't really think of any time when they didn't. They brought in their own engineer, but the opening acts couldn't afford their own engineer. So the Y1s that belonged to the Greek theater would mix. They would let me mix in order to teach me how to be a mixer. At first, they were just looking over my shoulder. Within a short period of time, they were literally letting me just run the board.
So looking back, do you now realize that they were getting paid for all of your work?
No, you know what? I have the utmost respect for those guys. They were so kind and so good to me. And I was so stunned when they went to bat for me, when they threatened to take the Greek theater non-union. That's a huge threat.
That is, yeah.
They really stuck their neck out there for you, and you don't hear about that all the time.
Both. They stuck both out for me.
Exactly.
That's great.
But I'll tell you what, the Greek theater was one of the real bright spots in my life. I really enjoyed that.
Is that the same Greek that is like Get 'Em to the Greek?
Yes, that is
My favorite
exactly.
comedy movie.
Yeah, and in fact, I remember when that movie came out, I loved it just for that whole.
Did you watch it though?
I'm sorry, what?
Did you watch it?
Oh yeah, I watched it, and
when he's like petting the wall and like, oh my God, I love that movie so much.
Well, everything Russell does is great.
He's brilliant.
Yeah. Have you taken a look at his YouTube channel?
No, I need to though.
Oh, he's got some real random stuff there.
Yeah.
But he gets serious too. He gets serious in a political way on a lot of things, but he manages to make it a little bit more palatable for those that might disagree with him. Then again, he speaks his mind.
Once you add comedy to the mix, it's a lot easier to consume quite a bit. And I definitely think Russell's a pretty funny guy.
Yeah, I would love to meet him.
But I'd actually like to know a little more, because I know Allied Artists is coming up on their 100th year anniversary. So why don't you tell us a little bit about the history of Allied Artists and how you're now the big wig?
Well, contrary to popular opinion, I wasn't there when it started.
Oh, stop it. I already said 42. What are we talking about?
But, well, if you ask Rocky, he'll tell you that I must have been there then. But anyway, Allied started as a company that was just that, artists that allied together to make wonderful motion pictures, and they emerged with a company called Riot. Riot was the very first independent movie distributor. And what that meant was, we're going back to the era of silence, and Riot was too small to be able to catch the attention of the majors. And so what they did was they just basically started calling theaters. They'd make the phone calls. They would themselves. They would pitch the movie, and they would ship the negative to the print to the theater, and they'd get them in there themselves. They were the first independent distributor, and they were doing it mostly for their own films. Then they started taking in films from other independent producers that couldn't get into the major distribution networks through the Warner Brothers and so on.
Right.
And so when they merged with Allied took it over and went from distributing for half a dozen independent producers for 50, 60 producers. Next thing you know, Allied was the largest independent distribution system out there.
Wow.
Well, here we are 100 years later, and during the late 80s, late 70s, Allied got into some, they thought it would be better for them to do what's called an output deal with Warner Brothers. And so they stopped distributing. So an indie would come to them, they would go through Warner Brothers. Well, if you go through a major, you have to pay the overhead for the major, and the major's overheads are much greater than an indie. So it basically took away that avenue for the little filmmaker. And now little tiny filmmakers have a real rough time, which is why a lot of them are going direct to DVD or what have you. Well, we found our roots again about 3 years ago. And we brought in a team of people like Mark Baychuk and some real top-notch people. And what we're doing is we're rekindling our roots, and we brought back our independent distribution. We now distribute to the major theater chains on our own direct, not going through a major. So the little guy can come to us, and for a remarkably lower amount, they can take their independent film and get it into distribution.
Wow.
That's awesome. Thank you.
So what is
As a little
remarkably
person.
lower? Still,
I'm sorry, what?
I said as a little person, thank you.
Oh,
yeah. What is remarkably lower? Like I don't know what the regular rates are.
well,
I don't know what that business entails.
well, there's a thing called P&A. That stands for prints and advertising. Well, really are no more prints; it's all digital. So it should be the prints got replaced with security of the digital image, the digital stream, and so they're being downloaded nowadays in 4K by theaters, and so there's a cost involved in protecting that intellectual property, and so it should now be called S&A, security in advertising. But either way, no matter how you look at it, there's a cost involved, mostly for advertising. So if you if you come to any company as a independent filmmaker and you want us to release your film, there's going to be costs involved for advertising to get your film out, for the security of the film, and so on. Well, if you go through a major, their costs are they tack on a lot of charges, and it's usually a little better than double the cost, the actual cost. So you're renting their system, and you're paying their overhead and profit, and so they're in a profit before your film has either failed or succeeded.
Right.
And they take their money off the top. So if the movie cost, let's say, $10 million to make, and it's got 25 million in P&A, and your film makes 15 million at the box office, 7.5 million of that comes back to the distributor, and they keep 100% of it.
Yeah.
So you don't make a penny till we make our money back.
Damn.
Isn't it? I think it was Meghan Trainor that came out and was speaking on that, about how, like, when she first started, everybody was like, how's it to be famous and have all this money? And she's like, I have nothing. Like, I'm touring my ass off. I am not making a dime, because she's like having to pay back all the stuff that, got her big in the first place. That's wild.
Well, did you happen to catch the Grammys with Trevor Noah?
No.
Did not.
Well,
sadly, no.
He was talking, and this is a personal pet peeve of mine. I'm a little bit, and I can't talk about too much of it because it's involving some legal stuff, but I've got a pet peeve with Spotify. But Trevor, I'll repeat Trevor Noah and you'll understand my position.
Okay.
Trevor Noah said, he was talking, I'm trying to remember who it was about. It was one of the big artists and said, he said, I don't know if you've heard it, he said, but this artist has sold has streamed billions and billions of views of the brand new hit record. It's billions. He says he's maybe made $5 or $6.
Yeah. It's wild. Like, they're having to, I don't know how artists are going to make money, if that continues or whatever. Honestly, I mean, I don't want to have to pay a whole lot either, because
well, artists are making money on merchandising and live concerts. So the last year and a half have just killed the young artists. They're having a very tough time. They couldn't even play nightclubs. They couldn't go get gas money.
That was actually one of my questions for you, was like, how has COVID impacted, your company and your industry? And are y'all like doing something different because of it, or how's that going?
Well, I think it's devastated anything having to do with entertainment for the most part, except for your streaming platforms, Netflix and Hulu and so on. They've done very well. But the content providers are not doing as well because they don't pay. They're usually an ancillary market. So you usually first thing you do is you get a film, for instance. It goes theatrical. After it goes theatrical, it may go celestial, and eventually it ends up at your streaming platforms. Right. Well, if you're going directly to streaming, you're cutting out that initial income and the recognition that comes with it. Mm-hmm. And so it's hurt the movie. In this instance, the movie theaters or the movie producers have really taken a beating, while some of the streaming platforms have done well.
Right.
But for us, it hasn't helped us, that's for sure. It's hurt us. But artists like Rocky have found a little niche market. Rocky does his Tuesday. Here's a gratuitous plug. Every Tuesday, Rocky does Rock and Roll Crazy, Rock
and Roll Tuesday.
Rock and Roll Tuesdays. Rock and Roll Crazy is the name of an album I produced from in 1984. So, Rock and Roll Tuesdays with Rocky Kramer every Tuesday on Twitch at 7 p.m. Pacific. So wherever you're at in the world, it's 7 o'clock Pacific.
Yeah, usually real late. He starts a lot of his streams real late compared for my time zone. Normally it's like either 10 for the Rock and Roll Tuesdays, or like he's playing video games at like 1 a.m. my time, and sometimes I'll hop in like, hey, I'm good.
I just
video games just a plaything for him, I think.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. And for all our listeners, if you haven't checked out our episode with Rocky Kramer, we have interviewed him. He is an awesome Norwegian rocker and just all around really down to earth kid. So I mean, I say kid, he's like my age, but you know. So
I didn't get to meet him.
Yep, sorry.
I have
Jen.
to come back.
You missed out. Yeah, we got to get Rocky back now.
Well, he's one of the. I've worked with some of the best. I mean, I worked with Queen, and Brian May is, in my opinion, one of the best guitarists ever. I've dealt with. I never worked with him, but with Jeff Beck and so on. And these are some great guitarists. And of course, Mike Pinera, who's with Iron Butterfly and Alice Cooper and the Blues Image and so on. In fact, he's the one who introduced me to Rocky. But of all of the guitarists that I've worked with over the years, Rocky is probably one of the most talented guitarists I've ever seen.
I'd like to agree 100%. I just want to make sure. Are you not being biased?
I'm sorry, what?
Are you being biased?
I am probably fairly biased, yes.
But I will say he certainly is talented. He definitely has a lot going on. I love the shred cam and watching his fingers maneuver as fast as they do it. It's just, it blows my mind because I can't even play like a simple guitar, even like a Guitar Hero guitar. Can't happen.
Well,
David, regular mode.
David Gilmour referred to him as a melodic shredder. Now, amongst the David Gilmour types and people like David Gilmour, and that type of guitarist, the term shredder is a double-edged sword. It doesn't always mean that somebody just playing a lot of notes doesn't mean much. But if you can do it in a melodic manner, that's the utmost compliment that you can give somebody, a melodic shredder. And I mean it's not a common term. David came up with that on his own.
Yeah, I totally understand because I mean I love his creativity because first off his Rockstar song's awesome, but I really really like his 80s synth version. Oh,
do you?
I love it. It's so good. I love the original, but I do have my favoritism on the 80s synth rock because I don't know. It's like maybe it does it for me, but I grew up with my mom constantly listening to 80s music. Anytime it was like good weather, windows were open, the breeze was being let in, and 80s music was just blasting. And that was my jam. That was my feel-good music. And it still to this day is. Like I constantly turn on. That's why like I fell in love with Rocky's music and his style immediately. Well,
I'm the one who I believe coined the phrase that he's an 80s rocker that had the misfortune of being born in the 90s.
Yeah. I mean, 90s kids are still cool. Don't hate.
Oh my God, it's on.
Don't hate, all right? Gee.
Well, when I first started working with Rocky, first of all, there's an interesting story to how I met Rocky.
Yeah.
I got a call from Mike Pinera, and again, he was. I met him when I was working with Alice Cooper. Mike was a guitar player for Alice Cooper, and he's an incredible guitarist. He used to be with Iron Butterfly and with Blues Image, and in fact, he wrote and sang the song "Ride Captain Ride."
Nice.
I've known Mike for many, many years. So I get a call from Mike, and hey, how you doing, Mike? And he says, listen, I want to introduce you to this young guitarist. I was not. I mean, I'm heading a film company, motion picture and music company, an entertainment conglomerate, and I wasn't looking to produce any more acts or to get involved with another artist of that nature. So he said, I want you to meet him. And I said, well, okay, maybe sometime, but listen, you and I get together let's have dinner or something. And so he said, well, okay. He says, well, when do you want to do it? So I made it an appointment to meet him. And I took him I picked him up and took him to Houston's. And as soon as we got done eating, we get in the car and he reaches in his pocket and he pulls out a sheet and he says, okay, we got to go. I'm going to give you directions to go here. And I said, what are you talking about? And I said, well, I want you to meet this guitarist. I said, okay, I've been roped. So we went there and I met Rocky. And the first thing I realized, he was just a really cool dude that was very nice and very knowledgeable. But I asked him some of the obligatory questions. I said, who are your influences? And he immediately looks me right in the face and he says, Queen and Pink Floyd. So I thought to myself, I said, okay, he's been reading my bio. Because that's my background. But I came to find out that he had no idea who I was. He did not know me at all. Mike just, I'm going to introduce you to this guy. Those were his influences. The moment I listened to his music, I realized that those were his influences. There's no question about it. Yeah. You listen to the Firestorm album, and it's definitely its roots are in Pink Floyd. Yeah. And to some extent, the Rockstar single is got some shades of Queen in it.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. And I think I listened to him doing like some covers of Queen, and I love Queen. So,
and I know he loves Yngwie Malmsteen too, and I know. Oh yeah, he could definitely he can keep up, if not do better than Yngwie. I'll say it.
He can keep, well, in a sense, Yngwie was somewhat of a teacher, although they've never met. He studied Yngwie to the point where he's got a PhD in Yngwie.
That's awesome.
How old is he? He's in his 20s.
That's good. That works for me.
He's about my age. So what upcoming projects do you have going on with Allied Artists and the whole theatrical side going?
Well, we've got there's a couple of movies that I'm personally working on. We have a number of movies that we're distributing or producing in one sense or another. But me personally, I've got a movie that I'm involved with that's called Chenault. And I don't know how up you are in your World War II history, but during World War II, just before the U.S. joined the war effort, Japan was basically beating the heck out of China. This is back in the days of Chiang Kai-shek, when we were at that time we were complete allies with China. They were beating the heck out of them. And there was this stunt pilot by the name of Claire Lee Chenault. And he was sort of a early version, if you will, of the Tom Cruise character in Top Gun. He would buzz the tower when he came back, and he would fly upside down. It was a stunt pilot. He would fly upside down under bridges and do all the things he wasn't supposed to do. And but he was just this incredible pilot. But he got into a bind, if you will, with the military, and they were going to court-martial him. And he was a captain at this point. And so he'd been in long enough that he could retire. So they were trying to court-martial him. The beginning of the court-martial proceeding, he gets up and he tells he says, I'm not going to put you through this. I know you want to court-martial me, so I'm going to retire right now. So if you retire before the court-martial doesn't go through. And so he retires. Right after retiring, the Chinese government comes and hires him as a mercenary.
Oh, wow.
They want him to go to China and, in essence, teach the Chinese Air Force how to fly. And they had heard he was this incredible pilot. And of course, if you're familiar with P-51s and P-52s, mostly P-51s at the time when he first entered, they were much slower than the Japanese Zeros. Well, he had figured a way that 2 P-51s could down a Zero no matter what. And he was able, so anyhow, he goes over to China, and while he's there, the woman that basically is running the Air Force, this is a scene we had, and I don't know if I don't think this actually happened this way, but it was almost like this. He's sitting in a chair and she's sitting across from him. And the camera is looking at General Chennault, who was not a general at the time. And he says, "So how many planes do you have?" And she says, "We have 6 planes." And you're right behind Chenault's back. She says, "We have 5 planes."
Wow.
But this is basically a true story. So he goes in as a mercenary. They make him, I want to say a major or something like that in the Chinese military. And he, but as a mercenary in essence. So he goes and recruits a bunch of pilots from the U.S. and that had left the military, and he brings them over there all as mercenaries, all paid fairly well, and they create an elite group that starts training the Chinese pilots. And this is where you'll know it. They get known as, one of the pilots paints shark's teeth on the front of a P-51, and they get known as the Flying Tigers.
There you go.
So this is essentially the true story of the Flying Tigers and how they got started and what happened. It becomes very interesting because the reason that General Chennault retires from the military as a general is that the Flying Tigers rack up the best record of splashing any military in history to this day. They have splashed more military enemies than any other branch of the military, including these fast F-16s and the newer stuff. Nobody's got the record that General Chennault racked up. Well, anyhow, because he had retired from the military, he was subject to recall under a draft. And so when the U.S. entered World War II, they were embarrassed by how well the Flying Tigers were doing. So they drafted all of those former military pilots and turned them into U.S. And so the Flying Tigers become a U.S. led group. They keep them there, but now they can take the credit for all of the victories. And in order to do that, so he becomes a general because they couldn't bring him in at a rank lower than he was with the Chinese military. So he comes in and they have to turn him into a general. So when he actually retired the second time from the military, by then he was actually a general.
Wow.
Wow.
That's insane to me. Like, to think that an ex-military goes to like an opposing country, teaches their military with no repercussions, and then is asked back into our military.
Well, he actually, FDR supported it.
Oh, see,
And
I was wondering the same thing.
He supported. In fact, General Chennault flies back to the United States because their P-51s are all falling apart, and they have to. They're basically using spare parts and making things to make them run. And he goes and he managed to get into the White House, and he speaks with FDR. And FDR orders brand new P-52s to be delivered to the Flying Tigers. This is before he gets drafted.
Oh, wow.
And so he delivers a huge number of brand new P-52s, which were faster than the old P-51s.
That's awesome.
That's absolutely insanity. I mean, honestly, the movie sounds phenomenal. I'm assuming there's going to be a lot of like dogfight scenes, so that's going to be
Yes, though there will be, and we're using. There's only a couple of P-51s, or there's only a few P-51s that we can use for air scenes. So we're obviously going to have to depend on CGI for a lot of it, but we're trying to make it as realistic as possible. And the Chinese government is very willing to cooperate with this, because the whole point of this movie, which is something we need right now, it shows an alliance between Americans and Chinese pilots that have to fight together for survival. And they really become buddies, and they trust each other. And that's a story that right now is a good feel-good story that we need.
Yes.
We've got a lot of tension with China right now.
We have a lot of tension between everybody.
Yeah, I think
that's true too.
There's just tension in the world all together.
Yeah.
I don't think I'd like to see it go away in my lifetime, but I have no idea anymore at this point.
Yeah.
Oh, I think it will.
It will if I create my love cult. Love and unity.
Out of all the incredible things you've done, what has basically been your hardest and most fruitful accomplishment?
Working with Pink Floyd was certainly the highlight of my career, and working with Queen. Queen was more, it was exciting because the whole industry was changing at that time. And Queen was in the forefront of changing it. Queen really did set the standard for a lot of the acts we have today are really just trying to live up to the standard set by Queen.
Yeah.
They're amazing.
Yeah,
their movie too was amazing.
Oh yes, I forget the actor's name. So good.
Yeah, what's the actor that did the main guy?
Like Remy something, I think. I don't know.
From what? From Queen?
Yeah, from the Queen
Freddie
movie.
Mercury.
Yeah, who played him though in the movie? Do you know?
Oh,
I can't remember his name.
Mr. Robot.
Yeah, he is the guy from Mr. Robot.
Yeah, I can't remember his name either right now that you asked.
Did he really sing?
Rami Malek.
Yeah, that's Rami Malek. Okay. So
is that really him singing?
Great actor.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely.
He really captured the personality of Freddie.
I don't know if he actually sang though. I think it was somebody else.
Perhaps, but Rami is a great actor. He really got that character down.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I feel like
the story's off too. They switched the timeline around a lot because of the movie. I mean, Freddie had not contracted AIDS prior to Live Aid.
Oh really?
No,
really?
because first of all, he didn't. From the time he contracted to the time he passed, very little time had passed.
Okay.
And he dies in the 90s, and Live Aid was in the 80s.
Wow.
Okay.
That seems
nobody
like
then.
a key point
If you're familiar with the onset of AIDS, nobody lived much longer than 6 months.
Yeah, once it goes from HIV to AIDS.
Yeah.
Right.
Can we take a tea break?
All right, we'll
Sure.
take a quick break here, and we'll be right back.
Thank you for staying tuned in to the Mindless Morning Show. We hope you're enjoying another fun-filled episode and would love to hear from you. If you're listening, be sure to follow us and leave a review. If you're on YouTube, please like, comment, subscribe, and click that notification bell to be alerted anytime a new episode drops. Thank you, and enjoy the rest of your show.
All right, everyone, we're back. We're still here. Kim has not left us. He is still gracing us with his presence. And Jen has now taken care of her business. So, Kim, I'd love to know, like, what do you see for yourself going in the future, and everything. With
for
allied artists.
myself.
For yourself, for allied artists, for Rocky. what is all of it collectively going to come to?
Well, Rocky is a portion of Allied Artists in the sense that he's a recording artist for Allied, and his the music group is now headed. He was, by the way, when I first met Rocky, I didn't want to, in essence, force feed him down the throat of the music group. So the head of the music group at the time was a fellow by the name of Stefan Bauer. For those people who may or may not know Stefan, his history was the Rolling Stones, Jeff Beck, and I mean he had just this illustrious career. And he came in to head our music group. So I took Rocky and introduced him to Stefan. And I said, I am not asking you to sign him. I am asking you to listen to this demo tape and let me know what you think. And if you're being certain, if you want to sign him. But if you don't want to sign him, I don't want you to. I'll actually take him somewhere else. So I gave him the demo. He called me back later that evening and said, I definitely want to sign this kid. He's incredible. So Stefan signed him, and I said, okay, in that case, I'm willing to produce him. And he does that. That's wonderful. So I agreed to produce the first album, and I will produce his next album, the second album. But that's one portion of the Allied entity. We also have films, and we have live concerts. Obviously, Rocky can fill out the live concert section somewhat. But in terms of films, actually, ironically, a very good friend of mine, who I can't disclose the name yet because it's NDA stuff, but he came to me and said he wanted to put Rocky in a film.
Oh, nice!
So, and it's not. I don't think it's going to be distributed through us because they already have other distribution.
But do you get a cut of it because he's signed with y'all first? Is that how that works?
Well, Rocky will get a cut because he's going to be performing it. He'll be performing in it and appearing in it.
Okay, but are you his manager?
Not officially. I look out for him. I look out for him, but I don't really manage.
Or he's your apprentice, kind of.
I'm sorry, what?
Your apprentice, kind of, or you took him under your wing, kind of thing.
Well, sort of, but Rocky doesn't need to be taken in anybody's wing. He's a very competent musician in his own right. So all I did was really make resources available to him that he didn't have.
Well, yeah, we all have to network. That's how you.
He is the talent, though. There's no question about that.
For sure.
Yeah.
So are we going to see Rocky as playing like Gene Simmons? I mean, he's got the hair for it.
He does. He does. I don't know. I think that you'll see. We're going to be releasing a new single for Rocky called "Alcohol," and there's a video, a quarantine style video that has been prepared that'll go out, and "Alcohol" will be released June 4th.
Is there toilet paper in the music video?
Is there what?
Toilet paper in the music video.
Toilet paper?
Yeah. Because it's quarantine style,
I see what you're saying. No, that I get it now.
I'm nobody ever laughs at my damn jokes. I'm not going to talk anymore.
Well, when I say quarantine style, his bass player, drummer, and keyboardist couldn't be with him to shoot the video, so they all shot it separately.
That's cool. That's
Awesome.
neat.
And so, but anyhow, the head of our music group is a fellow. Going back a little bit, Stefan Bauer, unfortunately, after he signed Rocky and a little bit before the album got released, Stefan passed away from cancer.
Oh no!
And so I was able to go out and bring in Stefan's really good friend and a very good friend of mine, John Velasco. And
Awesome.
John is just an incredible guy who's been in the industry. His history is equal to Stefan's at the least. He used to run BMG, and now he's headed our music group. And he loves Rocky as well. So Rocky, as far as we're concerned, Rocky's got a good, bright future here.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Yeah, John's a real awesome guy. We've had him on our show, and
Oh, did you?
yeah, it was a pleasure talking to him. He's definitely accomplished quite a bit. It's crazy. I'm always so inspired, like talking to all you guys, like the amount of stuff you guys have done in your life, and I'm just over here sitting here talking to you guys about how amazing it is, not making anything happen. You know,
You're making things happen. It's just that like we're in different steps in our lives, all of us. You know.
Well,
Everybody.
yeah, I was picking my nose playing video games at 13, not trying to
Yeah,
work.
no, I wasn't that. I definitely wasn't doing all that, but you know, all
It
in
was a
good
different-
time.
it was a different time back then. It wasn't dangerous for a 13-year-old to be running around, because I would work at 13. I would work at the Greek Theater and could be home at 1:30, 2 in the morning,
Yeah.
because the show wouldn't end sometimes till 10:30 or 11, maybe later, and then we'd be there putting things away for a couple hours.
I always think though, is it that much more dangerous nowadays, or are we that much more like apt to see it?
No, it's that much more dangerous.
It's
because of
it's
the
that much more
technology.
dangerous. Nobody thought about kidnapping some kid at night. They'd be much more likely to stop and say, do you need a ride home, kid, and give you a ride home.
Yeah, that there was a lot.
Pretty,
There was a lot less type of desensitizing or conditioning back then too. Like that's all just recently been booming to get everyone to do bad things. And it's okay.
Yeah.
let's do it, kids.
Yeah.
I don't know. I like to think the world is still pretty, but we just see a lot of the bad stuff.
No, not at all. No, it used
Well,
to be
you got to
pretty.
remember that I am very certain that I've got a lot of years on you guys. And so when I was a kid, it was a lot more innocent than it is today.
Oh yeah. The innocence level for sure. I just think sometimes I just think I think my daughter could walk to school and be okay. That I'm just hyper focused on a lot of this media and bad stories out there and stuff.
Well, now that she's 30, you probably ought to let her.
No, she's 12. 30. Oh my God. Yeah, no, when she's 30, she better not be at my house.
Let alone having to walk to school.
Yeah,
hopefully.
seriously. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Get out there.
Well, I mean, I definitely do appreciate the time you spent with us. And I mean, ever since talking to Rocky and talking to you and accidentally mistaking you for the actress Kim Richards on Twitch, I have been looking forward to this meeting, and it was certainly a pleasure.
I want you to know that I was around before she was.
Oh yeah, and way cooler. I just want to say that. Way less drama.
I worked at Paramount Pictures for a while, and she was there she was in that. She'd been in Nanny and the Professor, the TV show. It's in syndication now, and then she did what is it, Witch Blair Mountain or something. She did, and she'd done that at Paramount, and I would get mail when I was working there, and she would get mail, and she would get my mail. Sometimes I would get hers.
Oh man!
And we had occasion where we would meet in a parking lot, a joint parking lot in between our two offices, the valet lot, and we would meet there and trade. Here's yours, and okay, there's mine.
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
That's funny.
That's too funny. Yeah, don't worry. And no matter what they say, you look better than that Kim Richards. So.
Yeah.
Well, you know what?
Got nothing on you.
I want to defend her because she's really a very sweet person. I know she's had some issues with alcohol and so on, and I wish her the best of luck there. I think she's now on the wagon and
She
doing
is,
well.
and she's trying to write a book, and she's doing lots of stuff.
I knew nothing of that.
I thought we were interviewing her today.
She's really a sweet person, and if you can get her, I think she'd be a great interview.
Oh yeah, she's really pretty too.
Yeah, no, I actually didn't know anything about her like that in that capacity of what negative things she did. So I wasn't like trying to bash her in any way.
No,
just for the record.
Well, I don't know that she necessarily did anything negative. I think it's mostly been
it's all
alcohol
drama, I think, too.
Yeah. Well, some of it's intentional because she was on the Beverly Hills Housewives show.
Yeah.
Hollywood.
She's like one of the originals.
Yeah.
I had a guest on another show I do named Lindsey Graham, and everybody thought it was Lindsey Graham, the politician, but it was Lindsey Graham, the podcaster.
Okay.
For wondering. And my friend was like, really? He has very strong views. And then I was like, he does? What are you talking about? And so then I was like, oh, wait, no. Not I forget if he's a governor or something, but.
He's a senator.
Senator, there you go. But,
he's senator from South Carolina.
You're not alone.
Yeah.
So I want to ask him, is there anything that you would like to say to our viewers or listeners, any kind of message at all that you'd like to spread to the world?
Well, definitely get out and listen to Rocky Kramer. You can hear him at rockykramer.com. And most of the social media is at Rocky Kramer, and that's Kramer with a K. And the Facebook is Rocky Kramer Official. But when in doubt, just go to rockykramer.com, and that will get you in to everything Rocky. He's got some great stuff, and I do believe that he is the future of the music industry because he's bringing somewhat of an 80s sound with him, but it's a modern 80s sound, if you will. And
go subscribe to his Twitch, right? Because I just did that.
Oh, yes, definitely. Twitch, and that again is Twitch. Twitch.tv/Rocky Kramer.
Yeah, and all of Rocky's links we can put in the description below for all the listeners. So all the Twitter handles, Instagram handles, all the social medias.
And I get some props for being able to remember the .coms, .tvs, and .nets and everything.
You really do.
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
I don't think I can even do that.
You know, I deal with a lot of people that are my age or younger that can't even figure that out still. So I mean, that's good. Very good.
What can I say?
So I mean, again, man, it's been an absolute pleasure having you, and I thank you so much for coming on and spending time with us.
Yes.
It's wonderful meeting you guys and speaking with you, and looking forward to, and I hang out in the chat when Rocky's there. So if anybody goes in there, I'll be there to say hi.
Yay.
Absolutely. I say hi to him every time.
I'm going to come hang out with the cool kids now.
Great. Look forward to having you.
Well, we'll be seeing you tomorrow then. Well, hearing from you.
There you go.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Everyone stay mindless.
Thank you for listening to the Mindless Morning Show. We appreciate you picking us out of the many great podcasts out there. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that little bell to get notified whenever we release a new episode or bonus content. Now go enjoy the rest of your mindless day.